Hey everybody, welcome to the studentloanjustice.org live stream for Sunday, June 28th. My name is Alan Collins. I'm the founder of studentloanjustice.org. We are the oldest, largest, and really the only true citizens group actually fighting for student loan justice. So for the first 15 years of our existence, we were fighting very moderately for only the return of bankruptcy protections to student loans. But I am here to tell you folks, it is now a failed lending system. It's done. It's toast. Put a fork in it. Even before the coronavirus, the default rate among everybody walking around with student loans today, or a few months ago, was going to be something like 60, maybe even 70%. That's a failed lending system. Even the recently resigned chief operating officer of the federal student loan system said it himself. He told me 80% of all federal student loan borrowers were never going to be able to repay their loans. So folks, I'm here to tell you that we continue to fight for the return of bankruptcy protections. I mean, that's a no-brainer. The Founding Fathers called for uniform bankruptcy laws in the Constitution. But folks, it's a failed lending system. We are now calling on the president, be it President Trump or the next president, to cancel these loans by executive order. The president can do this. The Higher Education Act gives the president and the secretary full authority to waive and release their interest in these loans. That needs to happen. This lending system is now a national threat, people. A national threat. It has devastated tens of millions of people's lives. And make no mistake, people are borrowing triple today what they were borrowing even in 2004. By the way, the default rate for those students in 2004 was 40%. So no matter how you slice it or dice it, this is a failed lending system. You know, I got an interview request from Forbes magazine the other day, and they're like, so what's your advice to students? There is no good advice. It's a failed lending system. And the sooner that the people at Forbes magazine and elsewhere recognize that fact, and it is a fact, the quicker we can get these loans gone and move on as a nation. So we started a petition. It's at change.org. And we're a nonpartisan group. I now know that change.org skews left, apparently, but whatever. We don't care about that. We don't care about D's and R's. You are welcome here, no matter what your partisan beliefs may or may not be. But anyways, our petition has like 307,000 signatures. And it was going really fast this afternoon, by the way, so that's a good thing. We need to push this petition way harder. You know, there are other proposals out there right now for loan cancellation. And they are all garbage with a capital G. All the other loan cancellation proposals call for Congress to raise a tax or somehow get money from the public and give that money to the lending system so that they can pay for canceling loans. That's garbage. That's nonsense. First of all, Congress will never pass anything like that. And even all the proposals that we see now here today, they're not loan cancellation. They're up to $10,000, up to $30,000. And oh, by the way, these cancellation programs will never work because the government doesn't want them to work. Folks, I'm here to tell you, look at the Public Service Loan Forgiveness Program. Do you know what percentage of people are actually succeeding in getting their loans canceled through that cancellation program? Less than 1%. Look at the income-based repayment program, which you may very well be in. I'm sorry to break the news to you, but you're not going to get it. First of all, the loans aren't scheduled to be forgiven for years now. But even as of 5 years ago, like 60% of the people in that program had been disqualified out of that program on just one of the grounds that the Department of Education and its contractors have available to them to disqualify people. The lending system does not want to cancel loans. They have no desire and frankly no intentions of canceling loans. So people, it is a failed lending system. We've established that. These loans need to be canceled. We've established that. But all the stuff that you see on TV and what you read in the zeitgeist right now are fake. They're fake. I'm sorry. And we are a nonpartisan group. We only support political candidates in as much as they are fighting for us. And having said that, we could support Bernie Sanders. We could support Elizabeth Warren. But I hate to say it, even their loan cancellation proposals were, pardon my French, bullshit. First of all, Congress is not going to raise $1 or $2 trillion and then happily give that money to the Department of Education to cancel loans. Second of all, and maybe I should have said this first, that's unneeded. These loans don't need to be paid for. The taxpayers paid for these loans many years ago. They don't need to pay twice. That's just nonsense. It's Washington speak, ladies and gentlemen. I am here to tell you. And third of all, like I said, whatever loan cancellation program might get passed by Congress will be bureaucratized into nonsensicality by the Department of Education and its contractors who, as I said, have no desire or intentions of canceling any loans. So, folks, we're living through this. It's kind of our burden to bear. I know it's a pain. I know nobody likes to even think about their student loans. But we have to act individually, as a group, as a country on this. This could have a bad outcome. It really could. The student loan swamp, that is the unelected bureaucrats, lobbyists, banks, financial institutions, and others on the other side of this fight, our opposition, in other words, they would love to perpetuate this lending program ad infinitum. They would love to enslave and conquer this country under debt. John Adams said there are two ways to conquer and enslave a country. One is by the sword, the other is by debt. And folks, I'm here to tell you we're living through that. We don't want that bad outcome. We want a clean ending to this lending system. It's done. It's toast. Put a fork in it. So that's where we come in as a group. And believe me, folks, if there was another group fighting for this, I would join that group. Because it's stressful and it's difficult and it's sort of a pain in the ass. But we are it. We, right now, are the pioneers on this. Now, the good news is that there are 55 million people in the country who either have or are co-signed on student loans. 44 million of those people will never be able to repay their loans. They just won't. So those people should be on our group. Those people should be signing our petition. If you know 5 people with student loans, 4 of them are freaking out about them, whether they tell you or not. It's just the math. So we need to find those people, and we need to get them here. We can do this. In fact, we can do this before the election. Now, hear me out. 44 million people freaking out about their student loans. So far, Joe Biden has put forth some nonsense about loan cancellation. You can read it, and it's nonsense for all the reasons I just said. President Trump has said nothing. So, as I said, Congress cannot cancel these loans. The president can cancel these loans with nothing more than an executive order. He can tell the Secretary of Education, cancel these loans, and the Secretary has to do it. He doesn't need to raise tax. It doesn't need to be paid for. In fact, no money would even change hands. The loans would simply be canceled on the ledgers of the Department of Education. And by the way, this would not add 1 penny to the national debt. So, right now, the president needs fiscal stimulus for the country as a result of all the COVID stuff. We've already thrown $9 trillion at the COVID problem. Well, canceling all federally owned student loans, and that's like 85 or 90% of all student loans, by the way, this would not add 1 dime to the national debt. It would not cost the taxpayers 1 additional penny, And the president could do it tomorrow. And by the way, it would massively stimulate the economy. So the Sanders Institute estimated, for example, that canceling all student debt would lead to, I think, what was it? It was something on the order of $80 billion a year in fiscal stimulus. But I'm here to tell you that number is extremely low. The Sanders Institute kind of, frankly, did a bad job in their estimation, because the Sanders Institute, or the Levi Institute, whatever you want to call it, they did not take into account not only the fiscal stimulus as a result of people not having to make payments on their loans, which is what they did not take into account the increased borrowing capacity that would result from canceling student loans. So if $1.5 trillion in federal student loans were to be canceled tomorrow, yeah, the $80 billion for sure. But remember, another, I don't know, 500, 800, 900, maybe even $1 trillion would be able to be borrowed by all of us, the 55 million people in the country who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. So do you think we would probably maybe borrow some money and do things like, oh, I don't know, buy houses or like start families, start businesses? Who knows? Yes, we would. So the actual fiscal stimulus as a result of canceling student loan debt would be way more than that. It would be like probably double that, if not even more still. So there is no better way to stimulate the economy. There's no cheaper way. There's no more obvious way. There's probably not even a better targeted way, given that people with student loans are by definition economically disadvantaged. At least they were when they got the loans, and I think most of us are still here today. Certainly the younger people who are hit extraordinarily hard by student loan debt and are being very hard hit by this COVID crisis. So are women who hold 2/3 of all the debt and are being inordinately impacted by the COVID crisis. So are African Americans who are being hit super hard by these predatory, viciously unconstitutionally and unjust student loans. So there is just no argument against getting rid of this lending system. The only argument that I have seen so far is by people who don't have student loans, apparently don't like college students, and they go, hey, when you borrow money, you got to pay it back. And to them, I say, well, what about the trillions of dollars we've thrown out just in the past 5 months? Those PPP loans don't have to be paid back. The trillions of dollars in tax cuts that we've been given to the wealthiest, not only under Donald Trump, but also under Barack Obama, they're not paying that money back. In fact, that money just fell into their laps. And by the way, we're not looking for free stuff. We're not looking for a check from the government. Most of us are just looking to get back to zero. And you know what? No matter what the haters say, there is nothing they could say, do, think, feel, or imagine that will alter the fact that this is a failed lending system. And some people say, hey, I paid off my loans, you should have to pay off your loans. Well, to those people, I say, you were able to pay off your loans? Well, congratulations that you were able to pay off your loans. If I had a merit badge, I would pin it on you. But again, this is no longer your problem. You don't have the student loans anymore. We do. And nothing, again, that those people can do, say, think, feel, or imagine will alter the fact that this is a failed lending system. It is a national threat. It is unconstitutional, and the founders are on our side. You know, I know, at least I believe, I choose to believe, that like or hate the founders, they had a few good ideas, I think. And I believe that the founders are looking down and they're saying, how did our citizens get so weak? Why did they not throw this lending system off of their backs decades ago? We would have been to the harbor in Boston throwing these loan papers in the drink decades ago if we were still roaming the earth. So, folks, I don't know what more I can tell you. If you feel bad about having your loans canceled, then maybe if you come up with money down the road, use that for a good purpose. Put a good kid through college, or maybe, I don't know, take a young person under your wing and tutor him or something. But don't feel bad. That's exactly what our opposition wants you to feel. The people who would like to conquer and enslave this country have been playing our own guilt against us. That is how this abomination has been allowed to persist and to grow, to harm tens of millions of people, and to grow to the point where it is now poised to devastate tens and even hundreds of millions of our fellow citizens. We cannot let this continue. You know, as corny as it may sound, your country actually needs you on this. Consider it your patriotic duty to stand up against this lending system. You may not want to stand up against the federal government. I get that. We're not calling for the overthrow. We're not calling for revolution. We're not calling for the overthrow. We're not calling for, we're not calling for chaos or the anarchy or any nonsense like that. I'm sure the Department of Veterans Affairs does a great job. I'm sure the Department of Agriculture does a fine job. I'm sure the Department of Defense does a great job, Department of the Interior, etc. But the Department of Education has got to go. The Department of Education has become a national threat, and maybe not the whole department, but certainly the Office of Federal Student Aid must be disbanded. These loans must be ended. President Trump has a great opportunity to do the conservative thing and take this lending system to the bathroom and drown it in the tub. That's a very conservative thing that I just said, by the way. Any Republican, any conservative claiming to be for smaller government and more freedom has got to be on our side. Maybe the government has no business being in the lending business. That's my belief after seeing how this disaster has unfolded over the past 10 years. Maybe it's time to go back to the old model of funding colleges directly, and to a far lesser extent that they are now. Whatever you think about the colleges, I don't have any strong opinions. They are making way too much money on this lending system. They need to be restrained. Now, if you disagree with that or agree with that, I respect your opinion. And that is tangential to our mission. What I know and what you should totally agree with is that this lending system has to be ended. The people must be freed. You know, when the people fear the government, that's tyranny. And that's what we're living under right now, by consent, by your consent, by your inaction, by your sitting there, by your waiting, watching, and worrying. Instead of helping us fight, you are enabling this injustice, this plague, to be inflicted upon the country. Don't do that. It's not good. It's not good for you. It's not good for future generations. It's time to stand up, folks. This is the time to do it. This could happen by the election. Now, make no mistake, this is the Wild West of politics. There are 55 million voters out there who either have student loans or are co-signed on them. They vote. They do vote. And if a presidential candidate gives them something to vote for, 55 million people is nearly enough to elect a president outright. So we are the elephant in the living room of this presidential race. President Trump is looking very bad right now in the polls. He could do himself extreme help by doing the right thing, standing up to big government, and canceling these loans. And oh, by the way, while he's at it, he should probably coordinate with the IRS to make sure that whatever canceled amounts are canceled will not be taxed. The point here is to stimulate the economy. And that is how to do that. And by the way, there's still going to be about 10 or 15% of the loans remaining after the president cancels these loans. We need bankruptcy protections returned to those loans as they exist for every other type of loan in this country. On that note, there are two bills, S 1414 in the Senate, HR 2648 in the House. Right now, we are trying very hard to convince a Republican senator to co-sponsor S 1414. If we can get even one Republican senator, I think that would probably do the trick. So folks, I'm going to close by asking you to do two things. Number one, do everything you can do to push our petition. In particular, you should really contact a news organization and tell them about the petition. It's got over 300,000 signatures. We've already been covered by Fox News and C-SPAN and Minnesota Public Radio, Progressive Radio, I should say, Status Quo, and national radio broadcasts like Coast to Coast. We're going on the radio again tomorrow, by the way, on am950am.com between noon and 2 p.m. Eastern. But we need more press coverage. We can do this stuff all day long, folks. We can be doing interviews all day long. But you need to call them and tell them to report on it. That's just kind of the way it works. So, and you don't have to be interviewed. You don't have to bare your soul and throw your student loan baggage out there for public consumption. You don't have to do any of that. Just tell them to report on this petition. Give them my email, justice@studentloanjustice.org. Give them our phone number, 202-594-1120. We will do all the heavy lifting, but you have to make it happen. If you set them up, we will knock them down. So make that happen. That's the first thing I'm asking everybody to do. Second thing is what I just said a minute ago. Call a Republican senator. Contact a Republican senator. In particular, I highly suggest their judiciary staffer. And you tell them in as strong of terms as you possibly can think of that they need to co-sponsor S 1414. Two things, folks. These are your loans. This is your problem. The only way we will ever get somewhere is when you stop sitting on the sidelines and you stand up and help us. Believe me, over 15 years, if we've learned nothing else, it's that if everybody doesn't do a little bit, then nothing gets done. Nobody's going to pull your weight for you. They're just not. You know, on any given day, there are a couple hundred people in this group doing stuff. We need a couple thousand, or maybe 20 or 30,000 people a day doing stuff. When that happens, this problem goes away quickly. Until that happens, I don't even want to think about it. I do not want to be here a year from now in the bad outcome. Remember the good outcome, the bad outcome? We do not want that bad outcome. We do not want federal marshals showing up at people's homes. We do not want the federal government leaning people's property. We do not want people getting arrested for their loans. As I said, that's already begun to happen in Texas. And if you don't believe me, Google federal marshals, student loans, Texas, and you can see for yourself. So, come on, dudes. I don't know what else to tell you, but this is our time to fight. And as corny as it may sound, the country actually needs you on this. So make it happen. Tell everyone you know about this group. We need them. They need us. So good luck. Godspeed. God bless. And let's make this upcoming week the week. And as you make accomplishments, as you push the needle in our direction, let us know. We want to hear about your accomplishments. We don't need to know about who you called and who you contacted and who you sent emails to. When you get results, when you get someone in the media to report on this, when you get a senator or a member of Congress to co-sponsor that legislation, let us know. You know, when you do your own little protest as an army of one, wherever you may be, let us know. If you make a really cool video, maybe even a protest video, maybe a video of you burning your student loan papers, send it to us. We love all that stuff. Starts with you. So, in the immortal words of Benjamin Franklin, let me just finish by saying, we can hang together on this and win. Or we can all hang separately. So I choose that first thing. I hope that you do too. Have a great week. Peace.